Hello, and welcome to another episode of Tuesdays with Tally. This is episode 13, and I'm your host, Brian Tally. The mission and the goal of this podcast is to bring an engaging conversation that will add value to the lives of everyday people. We will inspire, encourage, educate, and tell the stories of some of America's finest men and women in an effort to motivate you to live your life to its fullest potential. Be sure to follow us on social media and on Spotify. The online information and handles are all located on the scrolling ticker at the bottom portion of your screen. Be sure to like and share the program as well. You can also support the program by going to Anchor FM or Spotify and clicking the support button. We also have program sponsorships available. To learn more, email me directly at thetallybill@gmail.com. That's thetallybill@gmail.com. Folks, we have a very special guest joining us on today's program. It's not every day you have the opportunity to sit down with a correspondent with NBC News, an elite athlete, and a woman so positive that it's her actual handle on social media. PositivelyBrie. Today, we are honored to be joined by Brie Jackson. Brie is a Washington, D.C. based correspondent for NBC news stations. She covers the White House, Capitol Hill, and federal agencies. Jackson specializes in issues including politics, equity, and civil rights. Jackson has more than 15 years of experience in broadcast news and holds a master's in journalism and Bachelor of Arts from the University of Maryland, College Park. As an undergrad, she earned a full scholarship to play on the Maryland women's basketball team, where she also served as team captain during her senior year. She is a strong supporter of up-and-coming journalists and have mentored numerous college students, including through internship programs. In addition, she volunteered with the Junior League of Washington, which is an organization focused on improving the lives of women and children through service. She founded the Southwest Virginia Association of Black Journalists in 2015 and currently serves as the Region 1 Director and a board member for the National Association of Black Journalists. Brie grew up in Silver Spring, Maryland, and she credits much of her success to her father, Sidney Jackson, a single parent who instilled a strong work ethic and encouraged her to pursue her goals. Brie's mother, the late Dr. Patricia Jones Jackson, was a professor of English at Howard University. Brie is also the proud aunt to twins, Courtney and Kevin. With that, we welcome to the show the one and the only Brie Jackson. How are you?
Great. Thank you for having me, Brian. I'm so excited to be here. And thanks for that awesome introduction. That's great.
You know, you deserve the recognition of having an introduction like that. Your career has been nothing short of just remarkable. You are a leader. You are an athlete. You are a journalist. You are an aunt. You're doing it all, and you're doing it all in stride and with a beautiful smile on your face that legit will light up a room. Folks, if you have not been in Brie's presence, you definitely need to experience that moment, because if you're ever having a bad day, she will definitely give you a hug and will cheer you up with that smile. Just look at this beautiful woman here. Brie Jackson, when I reached out to you to ask you to be a guest on my program, it wasn't necessarily because you're an NBC News journalist. That just happened to be where I met you. That just happened to be where the relationship started. Yes, we are going to talk about your career, but I think the most important thing about yourself is your childhood, the way you grew up and what you experienced. Can you tell me a little bit about yourself?
Sure. Yeah, I grew up in Silver Spring, Maryland. I was raised by my father. My mom passed away in a car accident when I was 4. So my father raised me, my brother, and my sister. I'm the youngest of 3 kids. And I mean, we had a pretty good childhood. Went outside and played until the street lights came on, and then came inside for dinner. So I credit my dad for doing the best that he could as a single parent, and just making sure that that was never uh a roadblock. He tried not to make the fact that he was raising 3 kids on his own be a
Mhm.
roadblock to our success and us having fun and having a good childhood. And then I just happened to get involved with playing sports growing up. My dad put me in soccer at first, and then the taller I got, he was like, "Well, maybe let's try basketball." And so, I really credit a lot of just like a lot of just friendships and you know learning hard work, learning the value of like teamwork through my sports background. And that carried me into college. I was able to get a full scholarship to the University of Maryland and play there. And while I was there, I've always been a good writer. So while I was there, one of my coaches, Christy Winter Scott, she is a broadcast journalist. She focuses in sports. So I would really follow her around and watch what she was doing. And once I graduated, I really just was drawn to uh, television journalism, and did the same, started in a small town, Salisbury, Maryland, and was able to finally work my way up to Washington, D.C.
Incredible. Now, you know, let's go back to your childhood. Your father, tragically lost your mother, when you were very young. And what sort of an impact did that have on your father as he was raising, you and your siblings on his own?
It's hard. It's hard. It's still to this day. Sometimes I don't know. Like, I'm very close with my dad, and
Mhm.
he's a typical guy's guy, so he doesn't show too much emotion. Like, he hugs his kids. He's very caring, but he doesn't talk too much about his emotions. But we've talked about it, and I think for him, it's a challenge, in particular when you lose a partner, a life partner, unexpectedly. It was a car accident. So, I think losing a loved one unexpectedly and having to really take charge of the family and figure things out, I think he just really decided from day one, he's going to do what he has to do to make this happen. I think I remember at one point, my Aunt Joyce, my mom's sister, offered to have me come live with her since I was the youngest, for me to
Mhm.
come live with her and her husband. They didn't have any daughters, so they said, "Hey, we'll take your youngest and we'll take care of her." My dad said, "No, I'm going to keep the kids together. I want my family to stay together. We're going to figure this out." So I don't know. I think it really caused him to step. Like anyone would, you have to find ways to just step up and power through. And I think that's something that, seeing him do that, maybe unconsciously, not realizing it, but seeing him make sure that we had everything that we needed. Food was on the table. We were, went to school. Um, I think, he just showed us what a positive role model looks like and set the example for us. And that's, I think, an example all of us tried to follow as we started to grow up and become
Mhm.
adults.
Well, obviously, he has done a remarkable job with you. You can just tell by your character and what you post every single day on Facebook and how you interact with your colleagues and your friends, that you are that shining example of what he intended to raise you to be, and that is a remarkable woman. Now, we know that your father is an honorable man. And, from the outside looking in, he's your biggest fan, and he's also your biggest critic. And it's so funny watching him at times, giving you all that feedback, saying, Brie, you did great, but you need to scoot over to the little left a little more, or, you got to go to. I love that he is still guiding you and supporting you and coaching you all these years down the road, even in your professional years.
Yeah.
Could you touch on that a little bit?
Yeah, it's funny. I think, they say a parent's job is never over. And so I think he takes that to heart. And I think with him, it comes from a good place. He is my biggest fan and sometimes my toughest critic. But I think the important part is, it's coming from a place of love. It's coming from someone that truly wants what's best for you. And
Mhm.
so I value every piece of criticism he gives. And sometimes I even say, Dad, let me enjoy this moment before we go into the critique. But I mean, I think it's I do appreciate it, because I think, I know he wants what's best for me. And I think it just shows, like, the fact that he still will send me a message. This morning he sent me a message about, you know, hey, is that a new haircut? Because I pulled my hair back today for work, and he said, is that a new haircut? I like that. It looks good. And I think, sometimes everyone wants to know that they have someone that has their back
Mhm.
unconditionally. And I think, there's no better example and better guide than a parent. And that's truly what, my dad has done and continues to do.
Oh, yes, indeed. He has definitely molded you into the person you are today. Uh, let's talk a little bit about your college career. Obviously, high school, you were on the girls' basketball team.
I went to the Bullis School. We had a really powerhouse team. I think most of our starting five ended up going to Division 1 schools, so we were a pretty good team.
Standing. And now, what's the Bullis School?
The Bullis School, so it's a private school here in the Washington D.C. area. It's in Potomac, Maryland. Um,
Mhm.
and I mean, it's a really good school. It's a good school for education. It's a good school for
Mhm.
athletics, and I think just a good school for personal development. It's a smaller school, so I think, classrooms are probably, you know 15 to 20 students tops. I think I had
Mhm.
maybe 60 to 65 people in my senior class. So
Oh, wow.
yeah, and that gives you an idea of, the kind of community, really close relationship type of focus that school has. But it also drew a lot of athletes, in particular
Mhm.
female athletes, when it came to like women's basketball, sports like that. But yeah, I mean, it's a good school. There's a lot of good schools here in the Maryland D.C. area, but it's, of course, it's my alma mater, so it's my favorite school.
Right. Definitely a way to stand out, when you're graduating with 64 others. A good way to really get put on somebody's radar and say, we need to keep an eye on her. She is really good. As a matter of fact, I think the Maryland Scout is right over there.
Yeah.
And that brings me to our next topic here. You played college basketball for the University of Maryland at College Park. Uh, did basketball always come easy to you, or is it something that you had to work hard at, to pretty much working your way all the way up to earning that team captain position your senior year?
Yeah, I mean, it's something that, I think, some people have natural talent, natural skills, natural abilities, but I think really to get to that level, for college sports, I do think everyone has to put in some hard work.
Mhm.
Everyone, in particular, like, at the college level, I think everyone was coming from a good school, a good team. So everyone has to put in hard work. But yeah, I think it was definitely instilled in me in my early years, even in high
Mhm.
school. I do remember one of my high school coaches saying to me, you're our junkyard dog, because you're the one that's always grabbing rebounds. You're always doing the fundamentals. I wasn't necessarily the, most talented player on the team. I'm not the tallest player on the team. But I'm the one of those players you want on your team, because I'm going to
Mhm.
work hard. I'm going to do the little things. And I'm
Mhm.
also going to try to pump up the team when we need it, give you, the let's go guys, that we got this. And I think, those are the type of players, you need the stars, but you also need
Mhm.
the people that, your role players, that you put them wherever you put them where you need them to be on the court at any given time. Like if they need to be the scorer, they're the scorer. If they need to be the hype person, they're the hype person. And that's the type of player I was.
Definitely team player, utility person, like you look and you see how you win these championships, and it's not always the number ones or number twos that are producing. It's the guy who's coming off the bench with 30 points, and 8 boards, and all of a sudden that's the difference, or that, number 7, number 8 guy on the bench comes in and shoots a game winning 3. And now all of a sudden he's the hero of this team with 3 points.
Yep.
So that is the great thing about sports. I come from a family of sports, and all athletes, and that is definitely something that is very important in our life and to the lives of a lot of Americans. It's definitely a good way to escape the world, and in a way, and kind of go into this place for a couple of hours and watch a ball game, whatever, and not think about anything, not think about life or politics or what's wrong with the world or anything like that. And and that brings me to what we're going to talk about next. You are a member of the news media, and you are a member of the news media in a time that there's a lot of people watching the news all the time. And I'm not going to get political here at all, because this is about Brie Jackson. I do want to know, what's it like in the day of Brie Jackson? What's it like getting up every morning and preparing for work and getting to the office? Can you kind of walk us through what that looks like?
Yeah, I'd start off to say, I think just having the opportunity to inform the public, it's an honor, and I think it's an honor that I take very seriously. And I wake up every morning excited to do this job. And I will say, when I wake up every morning, I literally mean like, I work the morning shift. So my alarm goes off at 12:02 because I'm usually in the office. I'm in the office by 1:30 in the morning, because my first live hit for this particular shift starts at 3:30 in the morning. So
12. So I know when you get up, you like to run the streets of DC, and like you've become this like awesome photographer, and I love all your like starting the morning off with all these cool pictures. But are you really taking those pictures at like 12 in the morning?
Well, so I will say this is my new shift. On my when I had a more normal schedule, I was getting up around like 5 o'clock, and I would meet my friends at 6 o'clock, and we'd go running in the morning. With my more recent schedule, which recently shifted in the last couple of months, and I'm working the morning shows. That's a different beast. But I think either way, whether it's working the morning shows, working, a normal kind of day shift, you get up excited. I think, you get up excited. You wonder what the day's going to bring. And I think that's the exciting part about the news business. You don't ever really know. Like, you can go in thinking, this is the story I'm going to cover today. And one thing can change that entire day. And that makes it exciting, but that makes it equally stressful,
Right.
as well as intense. Because you want to get things, you have to get things right. Not necessarily that you just don't want to get them right. You need to get them right. You need to get the right information, the truth out there. So I think that's what excites you, but can also scare you and make you nervous, because there can be a lot coming at you, in particular when you're following something like politics, or even if you're following breaking news. There can be a lot of information coming at you all at once, and it's really trying to get into a zone, like, kind of blocking everything else out and getting into a zone of like, here, I got to get this information. I got to get these facts. I got to kind of sort through all of this and figure out, like, what's the most important information to get out right now that I know is accurate information. So I don't know. It's an honor. It's an honor to do that every day. And I'm truly excited about it. And, I'm grateful for the opportunity to do it.
And you do it very well. We live in a country, we live in a world that literally has breaking news like every minute. Breaking news, breaking news, breaking news. It's almost become a drug to people. What happened? And when you have so much coming into your newsroom, how do you guys pick and choose on what to air on your program when you are hit with literally probably thousands of stories that are coming in every day? Who deciphers this, and who decides who gets put on TV, who makes the news?
Mm-hmm. I mean, it is a process, and I think every organization pretty much tries to follow the same process or the same rules, but people do it differently. But so I can speak for how, in my experience, how we do it. But we usually have a team of people that really talk through, like, here's information that's coming through. Have we checked this? Who did you speak with? Who can verify this? I know in particular there's a lot of emails. There's a lot of emails going back and forth, saying, here's what we know is for sure. Here's what we can report because this is information that we've checked, we've sourced. We can go back and say these are the people that told us this is the accurate information, and this is information our organization is comfortable with reporting. So I do think that's how our news organization does it. And nowadays there are so many different types of news, into so many different forms of what's considered news. And so I think in the kind of traditional news setting, even from the days when I was in local news in a local newsroom, we have every newsroom typically has a morning meeting where you sit down and have different voices, talking about the same topic, because you want to make sure you are getting those diverse opinions, those diverse thoughts, those diverse ideas, and into the story. You got to consider all of that when you're trying to put a story together.
Interesting. Now, I guess that's going to bring me to the next point here, is that when these stories are coming in, I mean, sometimes you have seconds, you have minutes to get this right, because it's all about getting it out there first, right? We want to report this story. We want to put it out there because that's our business. Our business is to report it as fast as possible to the public. And if we get on that story first, we were the first to break it. And as a news journalist and as a TV station and all that stuff, that's the goal, is to get it right and to get it out there immediately. Do you ever think that sometimes there are media groups out there that perhaps may run stories that haven't quite been verified yet, and perhaps run them a little too soon and then have to kind of walk it back a little bit?
Absolutely. There have been cases like that. I don't think it's, I haven't worked for an organization where it's intentional. Usually it's facts first, not necessarily be first. But there are organizations that would prefer to be first, and then if they have to backtrack, they backtrack. But I just know that that's not necessarily that's not necessarily the playbook that I follow and that I'm being instructed to follow. It's very much about getting it right, because I think it's like, it's not just in journalism. I just think in life, you talk about the trust bank. It's about building trust with people. And that's what journalism is about. And every time you're telling facts, you're depositing, money into that trust bank. You're building that trust. And it only takes a second to lose all that you've built up if you're more concerned about just getting there first. So I think the key is building up that trust bank and keeping that.
Right. And also the key word here is credibility. When folks begin to know who Brie Jackson is on reporting, you have credibility. And so those people are going to be further engaged with you and your reporting, to know that what you report on is actually fact, based on what you have done to research it. Now, speaking from my own experience. You have sat across from me as the interviewer, and I was the interviewee several occasions when I had the pleasure of meeting you in Washington, D.C., probably about 4 different times. And you followed my story very closely, and you played a monumental role in the success that I had in getting these bills behind me passed in Congress to ensure the rights and the protections of all veterans after suffering from VA medical malpractice. And once you saw this story, again, you were engaged, you were sincere, and you were genuine about getting this out to the national news. I went out to hundreds of news stations, and you were always on it. And for that, I will always be, I will always remember that. And you'll always have a special place in my heart because of it, because it does take a big team effort to get things like this done, to get a bill passed. And you know how hard it can be to get a bill passed, let alone a vote. So really, at the end of the day, with the experience I have with you, is that before you did my story, you asked for a million things. And you look through all of them. You ask a lot of questions. You look through them. You ask a lot of questions. You look through them. So I do know that, verifying it does happen in the news media. But there's a lot of folks out there who say fake news and this and that. And is it true? Is it false? I don't know anymore, really, at the end of the day. I do my own research on a lot of stuff, to be honest, because, it's just, we live in a world of social media and everybody's a reporter now. Yeah. And, so you hear one thing that could be absolutely fake, and yet everybody's rolling with it. And there could be truth over here, and everyone's saying, no, that's not it, and vice versa. So like, me right now in 2022, I don't even know up from down anymore, to be honest with you. So I just put it all into God's hands, and I just ask him to just bless me, give me gratitude, peace, love, and hope. And the funny thing is like, I live by this every single day, and it's hilarious. This is improvement. No anger, no worry, no politics. I bring this everywhere I go, and I have never showed this to anybody before. And once I wrote that down, it began to change my life. I can't change the world, but I can change people one person at a time to live the life that they were intended to live, and to do it in an honorable way. And that's my goal here. So I'm going to say, yes, I know you do verify, and that you do a good job on all your reports.
Thank you.
Or I wouldn't have had you on here. You are credible. And you're a friend too. Guys, come on. Look at that. Look at that smile. This is going to lead me to our next topic here. You are the founder of the Southwest Virginia Association of Black Journalists. What does this program provide, and really, what's it all about?
Well, really, it was, I was working in Roanoke, Virginia at the time when we started this chapter, and it's part of the national organization. It's an affiliate of the national organization. But really, it was an opportunity to bring journalists together that were coming from different parts of the world. Most of us weren't, born and raised in Roanoke. But we were really trying to find out, to really find a space where people could come together. In particular, Black journalists could come together to figure out ways that we could better serve the community, and in particular, serve the community as journalists. So since we're all, for the most part, many of us were moving to Roanoke from other places, and our job was to report on this Roanoke community. So it's like, well, we're new to the community. How do we figure out, who are the trusted sources in the community? Who are the people we can go to in the community the leaders in the community. So really it was a place for journalists to come together, to learn their community, to talk about how can we better serve the community as journalists. And then also trying to get involved with mentoring programs within schools, and just being visible in the community to say, hey, we are here. If you have a story idea, if there's something on your mind that, you feel that, you want to talk with a journalist about, this organization is here for you. So that's really what that was about. It was about making sure we were coming together, talking, because we were journalists from all different organizations in that Roanoke area or in the Southwest Virginia area, coming together, finding out ways we could better serve our community, working with leaders in the community to do so. And then also just trying to give back to the community, whether it's through doing stories or mentoring or other ways.
Have you seen a lot of positive come out of this program with the folks that you are mentoring? Have they come back to you and said, you've changed my life? I've got this job now. Do you have some favorite students that you wouldn't mind talking about?
Well, yeah. I think it's in the tough part about it is because, Southwest Virginia is one of those markets where people, they come for a little bit and then they go, and so I haven't really kept up with the organization as much since I've moved to the DC area. But through places like Facebook, social media, Twitter, all those things, you can keep up with people. So I can say, I just remember there were a couple of people, there's one person, in fact, Duke Carter, who was one of my coworkers there. He left, moved back to New Orleans, and then moved back to Southwest Virginia because he got another job there and enjoyed the community so much. But I think that was part of, the kind of community and fellowship and place that it was someone who wasn't from there, but found a community that he enjoyed while he was there, so that he actually went back home to New Orleans, had a job there, and decided to come back to Southwest Virginia so that he could continue to serve that community and continue to build upon the relationships he made there. So I think that's just one example of what organizations or, things like that, those type of community organizations can help people with.
Being a successful journalist, does the University of Maryland ever invite you back to speak in front of the team?
Yeah, it's funny you asked that. It's they do, and I think and I try to go back. They have Brenda Fries, who's the coach there at the University of Maryland, typically has an alumni game each year where she has alumni come back, and they'll have tickets and have like an alumni social event or something. So usually they have a couple of them. But it's funny because it was, I think, yesterday morning, I did a hit for the Washington, D.C. station. And shortly afterwards, she sends me a text message to say, I love seeing this every morning. Like, I'm so proud of how far you've come. I'm so proud of your success. And I think, that's touching, earlier we talked about how the support of my dad, continues through the years. And I think I played at the University of Maryland, I hate to say it, almost 20 years ago. So, like that, aging myself, it was almost 20 years ago that I played there. And the fact that, Brenda still keeps in touch and still, reaches out to say, hey, I'm proud of you. Because, coaches can play a significant role in people's lives. Good coaches can play a significant role in people's lives. And some of the skills that, Coach Brenda Fries, as well as Coach Chris Weller, who was my coach at Maryland the first 3 years, both of them just instilled the importance of hard work, determination, discipline. That's some of the things that I've taken into the workplace that have helped me to be a successful journalist. I learned through the structure that they had for us there at the University of Maryland. Our day was laid out for us. We had classes from 9 to 12. Then we had practice from 12:30 to 3:30, and then, would have study hall from 5 until 7. And I think when you spend 4 years with that type of structure, it just becomes part of who you are. And one of the key things about journalism is time management. You got to learn to manage your time, to meet deadlines, to really just stay focused and disciplined throughout the day. So I think, that's something that I learned more so, I think, through sports. That was something that was instilled in me and at an early age through sports and through coaches. But I mean, yeah, the fact that some of my coaches, even my high school coaches, still reach out and have me come talk with, some of the players, or my high school coach. I was an MC for an event that he had in his community a couple of months ago. Those type of things I'm happy to do, because I can never repay those coaches for the positive impact that they've had on my life. So I'm so happy when they reach out and send text messages, and whenever I can kind of give back to them, I try my hardest to do so.
Yeah, absolutely. These coaches are coaches, and then they're also life coaches, and they are mentors. And, and even sometimes they play a fatherly role or even a motherly role, depending on who that coach may be. That person may not have a mom or a father figure in their life. And that's where that coach will come in and kind of fill that void. And I know that adds a lot of value to really anybody, especially a child. And so that's remarkable, that you've had that type of experience, and that the University of Maryland has been so welcoming back to you, to the campus. And, I want to share something from one of my good friends. This coach has coached my son for years and years. And we moved away from California to Texas, so he doesn't coach my son anymore. However, he's become a lifelong friend. Coach Jason Payne. This is what he's always said: strive for perfection and settle for excellence. Nobody's perfect, but we can be excellent. Strive for perfection and settle. We're going to settle for excellence.
Yep.
That's always stayed with me. And I love it. And sometimes I'll text him. I'm like, is this how you say it again? Is this how you say it? And so, yeah, great guy. Definitely a coach that will always have his players, all of his football players, for the rest of their lives, always reach out. And this guy gets calls all the time from folks that are playing D1 college football and that are all the way up into the NFL. This guy is a tremendous asset to any player out there that is going through their sports and their sporting career. Not to mention, he was a football star at Boise, for the Broncos. So go orange and blue, Boise State. Jason Payne, he is a legend, and he is one hell of a coach. I want to touch on a few more things, and we're going to wrap this up. This has been a great interview, and I sincerely appreciate your time. I know you are very busy, and again, time management, right? You're a sitting example of it right now. I want to share something that's pretty special and extremely interesting here that a lot of folks may not know about you. Now, your aunt, Dr. Joycelyn Elders, if I'm reading this correctly, served as the U.S. Surgeon General under President Bill Surgeon General.
Correct, yeah.
I don't even know what to say. Really, at the end of the day, only a handful of people in our country have ever had the opportunity to serve in such a role. Mm-hmm. Can you explain perhaps the influence that your aunt had on you growing up?
Oh, she's an extraordinary woman. And I think, it's hard for me to really just, put into words, I think, the impact that she's had. And I think without realizing we were going to have this discussion, I mentioned her early on. She was the one who offered, when my mom passed away, she's my mom's sister. When my mom passed away, she said to my dad, raising 3 kids on your own can be tough, let me help you, and I think because I was the youngest, she wanted to, take me, and she doesn't have daughters. She has 2 sons. So I think some of that she wanted a daughter, but I say all that because, she's she's raised me, her and her husband, Oliver Elders, who's an extraordinary man himself. He's in the high school, I think basketball, the high school coaches Hall of Fame. So he's an extraordinary man himself. But you know, they both have always treated me as though I was their daughter. You know, yes, your family, but you know, I'm technically their niece. But when I go home to visit them or go to their house in Arkansas, they treat me as though I am their daughter. But I would say just having an example of a strong, you know, passionate woman who is, you know, not afraid to speak her mind. I think if people are familiar with who Dr. Joycelyn Elders is, you know, she's not afraid to speak her mind, and she's passionate about helping others, trying to make a difference in the world, but just trying to help people improve their health and talk about the importance of health. And I think watching her, you know, watching her not be afraid to speak up, not to say what she believed in, has helped me as a journalist. You know, you have to have tough skin as a journalist, and in particular when you're covering politics. And I think without realizing it, watching her and knowing that she was involved with politics when it came to serving in the Clinton administration, I think part of me was drawn into politics without realizing that it was because I was watching her, and I was familiar with the work that she was doing. Because when she was Surgeon General, I think I was in middle school, and those are your formative years, your years where you're growing, you're learning, you're figuring yourself out. I think, you know, kind of seeing her rise to that position and just continue to do amazing things. Yeah, that definitely has an impact on you. So I visit her all the time. I call her house my happy place, because I go there whenever I just want to relax and whenever I just want to, kind of gain some insight. I do reach out to her. So she's an extraordinary woman.
Yes, indeed. You said it. Extraordinary. You know, when I was reading that, because that was something I didn't know about you until a couple of days ago. And I was like, wait, what? I mean, there's not too many surgeon generals out there, you know, and, you know, that's, you know, something that they don't just hand off to somebody. So, I mean, that in its own right is truly remarkable. You cover politics, and I know you like your job. Would you rather cover sports?
It's funny you asked that, because I tried that. I tried that in the beginning, because people were saying, "Oh, you play basketball, like, you know, you should cover sports." And I, you know, as much as I love playing sports, I enjoy watching sports. I don't necessarily love covering sports. I think it's a different beast. And I do at times I do find myself covering sports related stories, and in particular when sports and politics sometimes, you know, tend to come together.
Like all the time.
Yeah. So sometimes you can't avoid doing it. But I think, yeah, you know, there's just something in particular when it comes to politics. And I think, you know, you are a shining example of that. There is just something so impactful about politics. You can truly, you know, you talk about you can't change the world, but like, you're proof that you kind of can. You can. You've changed people's lives because of the legislation that you helped push, that you backed, you know, that you brought to people's attention. And I think that's different when you're covering something like that. Is so different. It just touches you in a different way than sports does. Sports is entertaining, it's great, it's impactful, but politics really impacts everyone's lives and can change lives if you're covering certain issues. And so I think that's what I love about covering politics.
Yeah, it's very emotional. It is very emotional, but being on the side that I was on, it was extremely, my body was just riddled with anxiety all of the time. It was a nonstop journey for me. I had to remain relevant. I had to remain in front of the media. I had to continue to deliver a sincere and a genuine message to the members of Congress. I had to earn that seat at the table. And once I earned that seat, I never gave up that seat until my mission was complete. Yeah. I made me hard to hate because I emailed those reps and the staffers and the members of Congress every day, sometimes 3, 4, 5 times a day. I mean, I got over 5,000 emails and phone calls in on this mission that took over 12,000 hours of advocacy. 4 trips to DC, not to mention the 32 congressional districts in the United States I hit just on a car ride. So I can, understand the, effect of how a lot of these members of Congress, their day-to-day actions can go. And I know that there's a lot of pressure put on them from both sides. And really, at the end of the day, it is a tough job. And it's definitely something that I am not interested in. Because a lot of folks have said you need to think about running and being a member of Congress or, a U.S. senator, whatever it may be. I think your leadership can bring a lot to the table. But again, that was so much exhaustion that was put on me. And like I said, I didn't have much left in the tank. I worked this for 2.5 straight years under the craziest breaking news stories that you could ever imagine. So every single time I was supposed to have something good happen, it got pushed. It got pushed. It got pushed. But I was always there to stand it back up and push it right back into them and say, okay, hey, you remember me? Let's get this job done. So again, it was never giving up. It was never quitting. It was resilience. It was perseverance. And that's exactly the life that you have lived to get to the point to where you are right now. And I know that there's a lot of young ladies out there who look up to you and, as an inspiration. If Brie can do it, I can do it. And, that right there says a lot, about who you are. And then, of course, too, you give back to the community. You are involved, boots on the ground. Again, leader, showing that leadership. I want to close out here. How can my listeners help Brie Jackson with your foundations? Is there anything that my listeners can do to help you further your foundation or follow you on social media or whatever you like?
Yeah, no, definitely. Follow me on social media. It's PositivelyBrie. And that's PositivelyBrie on Twitter, on Instagram, on Facebook, all of them. But I think, something that, I think anyone can do, not necessarily for me, but, just try to be a positive influence on others. I think, try to be a shining light, bring a smile to someone else's day. I think, that's what I could ask your viewers to do. I think, and I'm sure if your viewers are following you, they already know a message like that, just to inspire and try to be a positive light in someone's day. I think that's just something that I try to do every day. And I truly enjoy the opportunity to do that for others.
Yeah. Just get 1% better every single day. If you get 1% better every single day and live a life of gratitude, you will see your life change in ways that you could never have imagined before. And it truly is a feeling that it feels so good to know that that's like you're doing it and you're doing it the right way. And, that, is very, very special to know that. Do you have any final words for our folks out there? Any good words, for, perhaps a young high school student right now watching this saying, I want to be a journalist?
Go for it. And I think you said it earlier, never give up. Just stay focused. Keep the main goal, your main goal. Try to, stay away from distractions, but most importantly, never give up. If you, stay focused on your goals, you'll reach them.
Yeah, there's a lot of distractions out there for sure. So, like I teach my kids, you got to, always stay in the fight and just go win. Be a leader, don't be a follower. Okay. Because followers get hurt, followers fall for temptation, and leaders lead by example. And if you want to be positive in this world, you got to do the things that other people aren't willing to do. And that's get up every day, that's work hard, that's provide, that's to motivate. It's dedication, it's determination, it's the will to get better. And that is what we do. And I know you are a shining example of that as well. Thank you so much for joining us today, Brie. We sincerely appreciate everything you have done for our great nation. Your service, sacrifice, and dedication to your community is truly admirable. And so we thank you.
Thank you for having me, Brian. It's been a pleasure. It's great to see you.
Yes, ma'am. Until next time, for Tuesdays with Tally, this is Brian Tally. Good night, Semper Fi, and God bless.